This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Kicking off hour 2, Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, channel 158. What?
I thought it was like 12:45. I was hoping we were getting out of here.
It's 12 o'clock. You got a long way to go, buddy. Got a full hour here.
I do. Got a lot going on. We get busy times, you know. It's things just, you never stop going. Never stopping. Well,
especially today, we've got Thursday Night Football coming up. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. Big Thursday Night Football hour coming up. Not only will we break down the game, side, total, prop perspective, Jeff Erickson of Rotowire is going to join us as well, give his thoughts on the marquee matchup tonight and the weekend. But I wanted to ask you, I kind of brought it up in the commercial break just now. I thought you weren't wearing a jacket today. I thought you had all these plans about this grandiose outfit that you were going to wear. You told me after the show yesterday you had this fit, and then I've seen this jacket before. This is nothing new.
So there's a couple of things that we weren't. I don't know if we were supposed to bring this up on air, and maybe I'll finally get confirmation. I don't know if the big bosses watch our show or not. Paul Howard came in with the declaration, wear whatever you want. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, Steve Cohen, wear whatever you want. That's exactly how he said it to me. So I was going to come in a shirt. A different shirt, a nice shirt, a collared shirt, bosses, please relax. And then I put it on. I was like, oh, this shirt's not as cool as I thought it was. And so I didn't wear it.
I feel like, take a picture of it so we can put it on air tomorrow.
You know what
I'm very curious. I'd like to see it.
You know what I likened it to, actually? Because I was just going to go with the T-shirt. I think you'll appreciate this analogy. The other day, it was just me and my oldest son, and I told him he could say the F word.
Whoa.
Just between us, like, because he just wanted to say it one time. And he looked around. He's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm giving you permission. Go ahead." And he whispered it to me. So it was like kind of one of those things where I'm like,
you wouldn't even do it.
No,
yeah,
but like it was one of those things where like I feel like I'm given permission, but I'm still a little scared, so I'm not going to test it quite yet.
All right, that's fair. I purposefully wore a blazer today so that I could be like, look,
and that's
I wore an appropriate jacket.
I knew it.
And you
I knew something was. I knew something was against me.
There we go.
Ortega's always making comments about my hair.
Well, our fits cannot stand anything close to what we're going to see on Thursday Night Football with the walk-ins today. We're going to see all those guys get it going. Commanders and Packers going head-to-head today. The 3.5s are slowly getting swallowed up. People seem to like that hook with the Washington Commanders. Total here, 48.5. And I know we're going to get into some prop angles. We talked a little bit earlier about Commanders probably being the side here, but where do you sit kind of overall on the game plan of how things are going to go down at Lambeau tonight?
To me, like sidewise, if you were to force me, I would go with the Washington Commanders plus 3.5. I think that's the side. These offensive line injuries, I think, should worry you for the Green Bay Packers. 2 starters not there. The Commanders do have the ability to rush the passer and get after it. Among the names, I know we know like the big names like Von Miller and whatnot, but Dorrance Armstrong in the game against the New York Giants was great. Had 32 snaps, 31 of them were pass rushing snaps, and he had 6 pressures, a 14% win rate. That's going to be somebody that Jordan Love's going to have to deal with the times that he decides to drop back. So I think that's going to be worrisome. Again, we always talked about offensive lines and the impact of absences through the prism of pass protection, but will you be able to run the ball? You actually couldn't against Detroit. So I think that's somewhat worrisome for you now with 2 guys potentially not out there. So all of that leads me, even though it's the short week going on the road, I think to me it would be the Washington Commanders. You even go back to the box score against New York. It's kind of a weird box score. They had over 400 total yards against the Giants. They averaged over 6 yards per play. So statistically, it looked like a much more dominant performance. You get the minutia of it. There was the running out of the clock at the end of the first half because of Jaden Daniels and the penalty that he was called for. So probably should have been a little bit more dominant against the Giants. I think that all kind of leads me to to Washington.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a bet on this game either, but I feel like similar to you, if you forced me to pick a side, I would take the 3.5. From a prop perspective, I did fire on one thing. I would like to add some more, so maybe Jeff can help us, maybe you can help me out, but I think we were like-minded on this one when we came into the show with our best bets. I like Deebo Samuel over 4.5 receptions today, had 7 catches on 10 targets in his debut with Washington, 77 yards, also a 19-yard rushing touchdown, but played mostly out of the slot for the Giants. He's healthy. This is juiced heavier at some places. I got minus 135 here at Circa, but I see at DraftKings right now around minus 148. So shop around for the best number available. But his 10 targets were 5 more than any other player. And you look at Green Bay's defense as a whole, yes, looked really solid against the Lions, but Goff still did complete 31 to 39 passes. He just couldn't get the ball downfield. The average infield air yards ranked second to last among all quarterbacks in week 1. I could see a lot of short passes to Debo here working out against this defense.
Yeah, that's why I put it down there. 23 snaps in that slot position for him. Slot corners, a question for the Green Bay Packers coming into today. Nate Hobbs, it looks like, is going to play, but Bullard, who actually had to start at slot corner last week, was not very good. If you looked at some of his numbers and what he gave up, I think it was like 10 targets, 7 receptions, so or somewhere in that range. Or excuse me, no, it was 11 targets on 10 receptions. So Bullard got really beat up. So if you have a dude coming off of a knee injury, you have another dude that just didn't particularly play well, a high volume of receptions for Deebo Samuel, who played a majority of his snaps in that slot, I think that makes a lot of sense to go over 4.5. That was one of the 3 that I had written down for today, for sure.
Well, what else? What are the other 2?
Well, I'll invoke a name that I just said, too. And I know you have. Did you have the over the quarter sack for Parsons
today? Yes, for Micah Parsons. I did that yesterday, but yes, I still believe it. Which, by the way, so that was minus 110 when we talked about it. It's getting played minus 138 at DraftKings right now, but make sure you're aware of what you're betting, because I saw this same bet over a half a sack also juiced at minus 138, and those are different bets. One of those, you need a full sack, and one of them, you only need a half sack to cash your ticket. So know what you're betting, but go ahead.
Dorrance Armstrong, the guy that I just talked about, over the quarter sack is 2-1. He has been a pass rushing specialist. They wanted a little bit more out of him. Again, of the 32 snaps he played, 31 of them were pass rushing downs. So it sounds like whenever he's out there, he is going to be rushing the passer against an offensive line that's going to be missing 2 dudes. For Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, I think that's a situation where you look at a guy to over a quarter sack. So if even it gets a half, a 2-1, you're going to be cashing that. He had 6 pressures on those 31 snaps this last time out, as we talked about, against the New York Giants, a 14.8% win rate. He might be in a pretty good position against a thin offensive line to get another sack here today. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Dorrance Armstrong over a quarter sack at 2-1. And then one more defensive one that's worth talking about too. Packers, it seems like, are all in on Edgerrin Cooper, their linebacker. 67 defensive snaps for the Green Bay Packers. Cooper played in every single one of those downs. He's going to be out there, it seems, for every single play. So there's different ways to look at it. On Friday we discussed, and we'll do it again tomorrow, the tackles and assist props that we had talked about. But if you just look for pure tackles for Edgerrin Cooper, it's 5.5. And if I'm getting a dude who is playing all 67-ish snaps or however many snaps are going to be out there for this team defensively, who's also a highly skilled linebacker, to ask him to get 6 straight tackles, I thought was relatively fair. So that as well, I thought worth looking at here from a player prop standpoint.
Okay, let's go to the quarterbacks here. Passing yards for Jaden Daniels, 227.5. For Jordan Love, 235.5. Touchdowns both over or under 1.5 scores for both guys, although Jordan Love to the over minus 114. Jaden Daniels, if you think he has 2 or more passing touchdowns, plus 116 is that price. Jaden Daniels also, if you're just looking at rush yards, because he did have 68 rush yards on 11 carries last week. That rushing yards total at 46.5 right now, and it has been bet up a little bit. Saw this yesterday, 43.5. With how good Green Bay was against the run, do you have any opinion on that? Or is it a different thing where, yes, they were great against the running backs, held Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery to like 2.1 yards per carry for each guy, but the quarterback running the football is a different thing, and Jaden Daniels has proven to be so good at that, and Green Bay has at times struggled against a running quarterback.
It just changes the math when you have another threat like that.
Yeah, Jared Goff ain't doing that.
Correct. So when you're lining up at a box on a 4th down or whatever it is, you don't have to account for the quarterback for the most part, because he's not really that big of a threat. And if he is going to try to run, he's not athletic enough that you're not going to be able to then fill and get him or do whatever you need to do. This does change things. So I would be on the side of it, like at least kind of throwing out that game against the Lions and looking at this from a different perspective and having Daniels potentially be able to go over that. I thought also the other interesting one is, again, to invoke these offensive line issues. What do we get from Josh Jacobs? Again, wasn't overtly effective against the Detroit Lions. I think his prop that we have here on the rundown, I haven't seen since it's moved, but 77.5.
Yep, still that.
Okay, and if they're not getting the same push, if they're running the ball at a similar clip that they did to the Lions last week, which was inefficient, not particularly great. You look at some of the rushing numbers for them as a whole, just 3.1 yards per carry. Jacobs had just 66 yards. If you're not getting that, or if you're just kind of performing at that same base level, then you do wonder if that's going to be something that you're going to go under that total again for Jacobs. 55 of his 66 yards came after contact last week. He was just getting beat up.
Yeah. He is, by the way, a $2 favorite to have an anytime touchdown today. He's had a rushing score in what is now a franchise record 9 straight games dating back to last season. He is the fourth most bet prop, according to John Ewing of BetMGM. He put out some of his touchdown scoring data today. The most bet players to score a touchdown, Jaden Daniels being the top guy there, plus 175 that price. Deebo Samuel 2, Terry McLaurin 3. He does have 3 receiving touchdowns in 3 career games against the Packers. Josh Jacobs 4, and then Ja'Cory or Bill Krosky-Merritt plus 210. Most bet first touchdown scorers, Jacobs, Daniels, McLaurin, Tucker Kraft at 10-1, and Deebo at 12-1.
Makes sense. I don't have anything really from a touchdown
Do
perspective.
you bet touchdown scorers typically, or is it just like one-off
Not
things?
really, yeah. Unless there's something where I feel like there's an angle. Last year it didn't work, but the one that comes to mind for me is I was chasing Arch Manning anytime touchdowns in those playoff games because you figured they were going to have a package for him in some of those high-stakes games. They did run him out there for one red zone possession, but that was it, and it didn't get there. A really quick aside, I have a text message here from one Steve Cohen that says, yes, I am watching. Never take advice from Paulie Howard.
You're lying. Did he really say that?
Yes.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Okay,
So I was lied to. Maybe Paul set me up.
Maybe it's a blessing in disguise you didn't wear the shirt today.
I mean, every day when Paul comes in, I make sure that the studio's at his preferred 67 degrees.
I do feel bad that they do not like how warm I keep the studio. But I run cold, guys, and I used to come in here with Femi Abebefe keeping it at 60 degrees. Reminder, everybody, with Thursday Night Football coming up, Bracco delivers NFL spreads every Thursday, minus 103, beating the industry standard, giving you better long-term ROI. On top of that, cash in on a 50% welcome bonus, monthly rewards, Sunday free bet promos, and more. Promo code VSIN at Bracco. Reduced juice and rich rewards give you an edge. PlayBracco.com today. Check it out.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, and we have a winner in this week's Average Joe contest. Congrats, Patrick O'Connell, and get this, because he already had an Edge Boost account, his $500 prize doubled to $1,000, and he wasn't the only hot hand. 6 contestants win a perfect 7-0. 4 of them VSIN Pro subscribers. Well done, friends. The contest is free to enter, and every week you can win cash prizes plus quarterly prizes like a trip right here to Las Vegas with a Circa Resort stay and even maybe a guest appearance on a VSIN show. Come hang. Enter anytime this season. VSIN.com/Joe is how you can enter. Find more information again. VSIN.com/Joe.
Odds move up, odds move down. Let's see where the odds are moving today, and do you approve this move?
All right, lots of these NFL lines on the move, particularly from some of the look-ahead numbers before we saw all of the results on Sunday and even into this week. So let's start at the top with Thursday Night Football. This was a 2.5-point spread in favor of Green Bay until they showed up and showed out week 1. Commanders played great as well, but from 2.5 to 3.5s out there all over the place in favor of the Packers at home.
Yeah, so we're talking about this from the perspective of the openers of the look-aheads. I mean, I guess you could say I wouldn't approve it just considering now we know the 2 offensive linemen aren't going to be out there, but it seems about fair, right?
Yeah, I think so, but now I like that you're getting that hook. I mean, it's significant, I think, that it was through a key number, and now at that 3.5, I think if you can take it, you should. Patriots, Dolphins here. This is a pick'em game now. Do you feel like that is correct?
Is it really? Oh, look at that. I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, given the injuries that we know, right? So you go through the litany of injuries the Dolphins are dealing with. Storm Duck missed practice. Austin Jackson missed practice. Benito Jones missed practice. Still no Darren Waller. Ethan Bonner in the secondary. Jalen Wright. I could go on. A lot of dudes that are banged up for Miami. Remember, Jalen Waddle hurt his shoulder in the game. He was a limited participant in practice, so that's going to be something to monitor too. Just given all of these injuries, if you tell me most of these guys play, I would expect we get back to 2.5, but the fact that there's so many guys that are beat up for a Dolphins team that looked awful, I think it makes sense that this would get cut down.
So now this next one I don't think is much of a surprise. Cincinnati was a 5.5-point favorite on the look ahead hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is 3.5. And I mean, based on what we saw from Cincinnati week 1 against the Browns, I don't think there's a ton of optimism about what we're getting early on from this team.
Well, I think it's also pro Jacksonville.
Sure.
Jacksonville looks, there's a lot of people I think believed Jacksonville was going to be a better team. I was among them, and then you had at least a point of evidence to that when you watched them play Carolina in a game in which they were pretty much in control of from the opening kickoff. And I think that there's part of that, the fact that, as you mentioned, this Bengals team defensively didn't look much better. If Joe Flacco's wide receivers, pass catchers can hold on to footballs, they probably walk away with a victory against the Cincinnati Bengals. So I think that leads you all to cutting this thing down to 3.5. And I mean, I know there doesn't really seem to be a jump in the market right now to grab 3.5, but I would say that's the side.
Yeah, still like the Jags in that spot. I mean, Bengals we've talked a lot about how bad that defense is and the offensive line looking the way that it does, not a recipe for success. The Cowboys, I'm very high on this Dallas team, and it was bet out from 4.5 at that look-ahead number to as high as 5.5, but we're still seeing 4.5s out there. It's kind of all over the place on the board depending on what number you like, but as we mentioned earlier, a little bit of a dead number, not that the 3 or the 7 kind of living in that dead area between the two numbers.
Yep. I get it with your love for the Dallas Cowboys. I showed you that nifty graph. If you looked at it from the standpoint of expected points added in scripted drives, our guy Shoddy was among the best coaches in the National Football League in week 1. We'll see if that translates here to this matchup, but overall, could get a hot start for the Dallas Cowboys, and maybe they can sit on it against Russ and the Giants.
Buffalo's offense looked awesome week 1. They were an 8.5-point favorite in New York, taking on the Jets on the look ahead, but New York surprised some people with their performance, most notably their quarterback, Justin Fields, 6.5 across the board right now. Do you approve this move?
I mean, you have to. The first off, the Jets and what they were able to do in that game offensively looked very, very good. 4.7 yards per carry, 182 yards. Breece Hall at 105.6 per touch. So you should be able to run the ball against some lesser defensive fronts. And guess what? I mean, after week 1, I know it's probably the best running game in the National Football League. Bills look just that. Now you have Ed Oliver, who's dinged up and who's got a scooter. So we have that you have to deal with. Ed Oliver's their primary run defensive piece along the defensive line. Actually, it's a pretty good negative plays against the Ravens on Sunday night. From a run defense standpoint, if he's not going to be there for a front that can't stop the run, Jets look more and more live.
Detroit only put up 13 points last week, and it was 6 going into the last couple minutes there as well. Rough start taking on a Bears team and their former offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who's now the head man in Chicago. This went from 4.5 on the look ahead out to 6 that we're seeing now, and I think a lot of that based on what we saw in the second half of that Monday night game.
Yeah, this is one where I think that I would push back on a little bit when you're talking about the approve this move angle of what we're talking about. Corners and secondary overall didn't look particularly great for the Lions. I know Terry and Arnold got dinged up, but even in 16 pass coverage snaps that he played, gave up 4 receptions on 6 targets for 86 yards. You look at DJ Reed, who got into that game at the cornerback position as well. He as well, 4 receptions on 5 targets. The corners didn't really grade out well outside of Amik Robertson and Brian Branch. And even then, Robertson, the second highest graded guy in coverage, was still underneath 70. So I think that this is a secondary that can be had. And I think that, again, to use the phrase that I used in the first hour, Stormy, I'm not going to judge the Bears and Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson by taking on the best defense in the NFL. Let's judge them and whether or not they can do anything against this secondary.
Yeah, I'm excited for this game. I like the Bears plus the 6. I was hoping that it was going to go in that other direction, like get the 6.5. Can we get the hook? But at least in the contest.
By the way,
other way.
We'll be watching it together here.
Yes.
On Sunday as part of Live Bet Sunday. So make sure you check it out.
Yes, very excited for that. 9 a.m. Pacific time. We'll get you that final
hour
to preview everything. Come on. I'm landing early. 7:15 Pacific. Heading right over just to join you.
I'll believe the air travel is on time when I see it.
Hey, Southwest out of Oakland in the morning knows what's up. I knock on wood. Had good success. Good success.
I would not be able to tell you that at all.
The 49ers and Saints, this was a full touchdown spread on the look ahead in favor of San Francisco. Obviously now we know there are some significant injury issues for San Francisco. Brock Purdy likely not going to go this week or potentially up to the next 5 depending on the severity of that turf toe. George Kittle on injured reserve, a wide receiver room that is lacking. We're sitting 3 across the board here. Also a 4-point swing on the total from 44.5 to 40.5.
You have to say you approve it. The question now just becomes, at what point is too far? with Brock Purdy now being sidelined, with Kittle being injured, and everything else we know about this team, I don't know, man. I don't want to let go of the fact that I think they're going to be pretty live here. I still believe in Shanahan and the ability to get a lot out of the signal caller position. It goes back to the big debate that was had the year that Purdy was breaking out and going into the years in which he was going to get paid. Was he actually worth it? Was he a product of the system? I don't want to say he's entirely a product of the system. We've seen some good NFL throws from him. He had a great throw to Ricky Pearsall on the left sideline in that game where he's very solid. But I still think that you're at a point where in this offense, your floor is pretty high when you talk about what Shanahan can get.
Yeah, I do lean under. I agree with the move, at least toward the under on that one. Mac Jones, and granted, there was a lot of other issues in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence injured last year, but as a team with him as the QB1 in 8 games, team averaged 15.5 points per game. The 4 games on the road, even less, 13.5. Average 205 pass yards per game, 64% completions, 8 touchdowns, 8 picks in that time. We'll see what we're going to get here. It would be 49ers or pass for me, but I do lean under, especially with how good San Francisco's defenses look.
It's fitting. Brian checked in on Twitter, said he's not in the circus, so stakes are much lower. But if Purdy has turf toe, shoulder issue, McCaffrey's well, and plus other injuries, I'm going in on San Francisco for Survivor since they may not be usable again. I think the Saints are that bad. I do think that there is still a Survivor option, too.
That's an interesting point, though, because I would argue they're not an option over the next 5 weeks, but if you get deeper into the season and you do get Ayuk back and you do get Kittle back and Brock Purdy's out, I would say that there would be opportunities to use them later on, especially for a schedule that has been deemed the easiest in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be further down the schedule when you look at those options.
Yeah, you have to get there.
Correct. But again, if we use this premise of what we've just, one data point and also what we think, the options for you if you're San Francisco, home versus Carolina, maybe that's it. That's week 12, though. At Cleveland, home versus Tennessee, at Indianapolis. Some of those games look much more difficult.
Fair.
Where maybe this is going to be the actual only opportunity. And isn't that, is it somewhat ironic that the only one is when the starting quarterback is injured, and so is the starting tight end?
Yeah.
I also believe in this defense.
Wild. What does that say about the New Orleans Saints and the state that they are in right now? The Denver Broncos had a closer call than many thought against the Titans. They went from a 3.5 on the look ahead in Indy, taking on the Colts, down to pick 'em some spots.
Come on, you know the answer to this.
Colts, baby. Totally approved.
We approve this move. Signed, sealed, and delivered.
Eagles Chiefs has been all over the place. Kansas City was favored by 1.5 on the look ahead. Now at some spots, it's Philly the other way. Bucks, Texans as well. Houston out from 1.5 to 2.5.
That one I think you can quibble with, right? You and I kind of sharing the same sentiment of
Tampa, baby. Let's go.
Looking at Tampa Bay. Hopefully they're healthy along the defensive line. Starting center out for the Texans. Could be a pretty promising thing for a guy who was just pressured on over 40% of his dropbacks, now missing his starting guy in the middle.
Okay, we are going to continue our NFL conversation coming up next, but from more of a prop betting perspective, Jeff Erickson, senior editor over at Rotowire, is going to hop on the Progressive guest line and help us break it all down. That's a sneaky one. We'll be right back. More Money Moves after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Thursday Night Football on deck as we welcome you back to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Green Bay, 3.5-point home favorite, taking on the Washington Commanders, although as we've talked about, a handful of shops moving down to that 3 with Washington getting played. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. Excited to break down this game from not only the side total, but prop perspective and some props looking ahead to the weekend as Jeff Erickson joins us here on the Progressive guest line. Rotowire Senior Editor, host of Rotowire Fantasy Sports Today on SiriusXM Channel 87 at Jeff_Erickson on X. And let's go to tonight. You know, 2 teams that had pretty dominant performances in week 1 going head to head. Should be a fun one on Thursday night. Were there any matchup advantages you really saw stand out in the prop market today?
Well, the one thing I saw, and I saw this early in the week, is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill. I think his running prop is still a little too low. You can find it 39.5 at BetMGM, 40.5 at DraftKings, maybe a slightly lesser price to pay in terms of juice. Especially if Chris Rodriguez is a healthy scratch again, I think Krosky-Merritt's going to get plenty of work. I think he's going to get enough carries that he's going to get that rushing prop. I understand it's a tougher run environment in Green Bay than it was against the Giants at home last week, but I just think in terms of volume, he'll get there. You even take away the 40-yard run he had last week, he still gets there last week. So Austin Eckler's got a sore shoulder too, was limited in practice all week. I think you'll get plenty of snaps from Krosky-Merritt.
When you look at the injuries along the offensive line for Green Bay, does that do anything from a fantasy standpoint, from a player prop standpoint? How can that impact the game and maybe a player's performance, be it running back, Jordan Love under more pressure, some of these wide receivers? Is there any ripple effect from that?
There might be. One of the good things for Green Bay is that they have depth on the offensive line. There was some even debate going into training camp who were going to be the 5 starters. So that at least they can pivot a little bit easier than other teams can when they have these offensive line issues. 2 guys that didn't practice all week. So I think that's a concern, especially when you look at what the pass rush did for the Commanders against the Giants last week. That could be a problem for Jordan Love. It could be a problem for someone like a Matthew Golden just trying to get open on deep plays.
When you looked at the side and the total in this one, did anything stand out to you? I mentioned those hooks are going away with people taking the Washington Commanders. Do you think that's about right?
I'm actually kind of happy about that, but I'm actually on the Packers side, and it gives me more opportunity to go back that a little bit there. I truly believe that the Packers are an elite team this year. They were 3rd in overall DVOA last year, and this was with a hurt quarterback with all the wide receiver injuries they had. They ran into the Eagles, obviously, in the playoffs. They had a tough draw. They had that horrible Week 18 game against the Bears, and I think that kind of set the tone for a little bit for them for the playoffs. I think this is a really solid team, and of course, you had Micah Parsons. You saw how they performed against the Lions last week. I think this is a pretty good representative sample of how good this Packers team could be. I'm happy to get the extra half point in my favor.
All right, let's talk about some other games we have looking forward here. I was just invoking the great performance of the New York Jets on the ground. Does that continue this week against the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I think a great cheat code in fantasy is getting a running back paired with a mobile quarterback, a good running quarterback. It opens up running lanes, and I think we've seen that many times in the past. And I think Justin Fields is doing exactly that for Breece Hall. We saw he looked like shot out of a cannon against the Steelers last week. I really liked Breece Hall's over on the rushing total at 57.5. Last year, he ran for 113 in the first game. Only ran for 43 in the second game, but keep in mind that was a blowout game where Rodgers got hurt. They went to turn to Tyrod Taylor in the second half. I think that was 33-0 at one point in time. When there's a competitive game, Breece Hall runs really well against the Bills. The Bills have a pretty tough run defense right now as well. In terms of, they had a tough look against Derrick Henry. I think this is a pretty good, achievable mark for Breece Hall.
And the team that the Jets just faced, the Pittsburgh Steelers, meanwhile, back at home hosting the Seattle Seahawks. It was interesting. Those are both teams that in week 1, I think a lot of people thought were going to have these great defensive performances. Seattle, for the most part, lived up to that against San Francisco. The Steelers defense did not, but Aaron Rodgers did have a 4-touchdown day. It seemed like some of those things offensively were working. They're laying 3 at home against Seattle, total 39.5. Anything stand out to you there?
Yeah, I'm going to double down on the Steelers. I'm the dunce that bet the under on that Steelers-Jets game last week when I was in Vegas there, so that was fun. To be the highest scoring game and the lowest total. That was a nice combo. Yep. Seattle, Sam Darnold is not Justin Fields. He is not a mobile quarterback. This offensive line for the Seahawks is pretty rough. They struggled to open up lanes for Kenneth Walker. They struggled, to get anything going in the passing game aside from Jackson Smith and Jigba. I didn't buy the Seahawks coming into the season after the Geno trade and signing Darnold for a slightly lower price. I'm not going to buy now. When they go on the road, face Pittsburgh, I like Pittsburgh at -3 here.
All right, what about on Monday night? I know we're a while away, but Stormy and I were talking about the maybe interest we have in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Houston, who's down an offensive lineman on a bad line. But what do you make of the game potentially from a total standpoint?
I like the under again. You saw what happened in the Houston Rams game there, where Houston has the elite defense and they have a horrible offensive line in their own right. I think they really will struggle against the Bucs. I think Hassan Reddick will have a field day with no Tristan, with that offensive line, the makeshift offensive line with players playing out of position. They're saying that they're going with their 5 best offensive linemen regardless of position. I think that's something that still, it might work in the long run, but it's not working right now. And I think this is another under. And on the flip side, I think Will Anderson without Tristan Wirfs out there is going to have a field day in his own right. Danielle Hunter on the other side of this. I really think Houston is one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. So I like the under in this game. I got to say also, I like that we have 2 Monday night games. I like the double Monday night games, and I like the time split too. I like that they're not stacked right on top of each other this time.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Like that's what makes it different is we have to have the separation so that we can still be dialed in on both games. I hate when they overlap.
Yes. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but like
absolutely.
Enough of the consideration of the East Coast. On Monday nights, give us a West Coast kick. Give us Chargers, Raiders on the baseball field like they used to do in the opening week. Like I want something like that, and I'm down with this totally.
I'm here for it.
Amen on that there. Let's hear for the best coast.
Thank you, Jeff. That's the energy we need. We even do a college football segment now called West Coast Bias because we need to get a little bit more love to these teams coming out here. And one of those teams, by the way, the Arizona Cardinals is taking on the Carolina Panthers this week. 7-point spread, depending on where you look, 6.5. There is a prop in this game, though, that caught your eye. What was it?
I think the Carolina run defense is tragic as it was last year. We saw last week of Travis Etienne running all over them. I like Trey Benson, who I think is ascendant, is going to get more carries as the season progresses, has that big playability. We saw it against the Saints at the start of the third quarter last week. I love the 34.5 over rushing total for him. And I know I'm kind of honing in on rushing totals. That's kind of weird. I probably should diversify my props a little bit more than just overs on rushes. But, I really like Benson. I think he's a guy that's going to continue to cut into James Conner's workload. And I think it will make Conner will be better for it too. I really think they need to get both backs involved. Arizona doesn't have that diversified of a passing game. They need to find other ways to involve the running game. Getting Benson involved, I think, lifts all boats there when it comes to the running game. So I like the over 34.5, a game where they should be ahead, a game where they should be able to run the ball. I know Carolina tried to buffer that run defense in the offseason. It sure didn't look like it in week one. So give me the over on Benson at 34.5.
All right, before we get you out of here, we do here at VSiN Behind the Scenes have a guillotine league going. I am part of it with some of the folks from behind the scenes. And, Jeff, they are mocking me because I may or may not have spent $500 on getting Ashton Genty this week. Tell them that I'm right and they're wrong.
Well, you get them for the whole rest of the season. And is that 500 of 1,000?
Yes.
I think that's just fine because later in the season, you're going to be competing against fewer people that are on the waiver wire, in theory. You got to stay alive to be able to do that there. So you get a difference maker, a first-round pick, absolutely go for it. You get them all season long.
Boom.
Last
Boom.
90 seconds before we let you go. We talked a lot earlier about all of the injuries that are going on with San Francisco. From a prop perspective, after Christian McCaffrey got all of the touches that he did in week one, should we expect that similar type of workload this week against New Orleans?
Absolutely. I think you'll see a little bit more Brian Robinson, too, where they get both of them on the field at the same time, just because they utter lack of playmakers right now, especially if Juwan Jennings is limited in his ability to play and be out there on the field because of that shoulder injury. It stinks losing Kittle. I had him in 5 leagues, so I have to do the scramble drill to replace him. But, Mac Jones will try to air it out. I think Ricky Pearsall will get a bunch of targets, but it's really the CMC show.
Hey, at least you got a week one touchdown out of Kittle before he left you. At least you got something.
Yeah. Absolutely. Had the decency to do that. 4 catches, too. That over 4.5 was so close.
Oh, killer. Jeff, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. We'll talk to you next week.
Anytime. Thanks.
Jeff Erickson, really appreciate the time. Rotowire Senior Editor. Again, make sure you check out Rotowire Fantasy Sports Today, Sirius XM, Channel 87. Also, you can follow Jeff on X at Jeff_Erickson. But Bill Krosky Merritt, where he's going tonight on Thursday Night Football.
I like it. I dig it. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I mean, he had 82 yards on 10 attempts last week. Mm-hmm. It's just that Packers run defense I was curious about. He thinks it's too low, 39.5.
Yep. I think with the workload, it makes a lot of sense he would go in that direction.
Sure. All right, we got to step aside. When we come back, we will break down our best bets for tonight's Thursday Night Football action, as well as some other things that we are adding to the account, putting on the bet slip day to day. I didn't do my full, get every bet out of my system today because I will be with you on the air tomorrow, which is nice. So stick around. Best bets come up after this on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM, Channel 158. We are wrapping up this Thursday edition of the program. Remember, as always, if you missed any of the show today, you want to catch up, You can always get Money Moves in podcast form wherever you download your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those wonderful places. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. Thursday Night Football on deck. Packers, Commanders coming up. Still some 3.5s out there. Lots of 3s as well. Total 48.5. Why are you smiling so big? That's the question.
Adam Schefter has to understand the power that he has at times.
Oh, no. What happened?
So he just tweeted out, and I have the alerts. You always want news and stuff. And then I read it. Bill safety Damar Hamlin will make his second appearance in another Hallmark holiday movie. The more, the merrier. As an ambassador for Abbott News Heartmates community, Hamlin will appear with 5 children who have experienced heart health challenges. All right, it's good, fun, nice story. But as the first comment points out, why isn't it called Damar the Merrier?
Whoa, beautiful. Right. What an idea.
So Adam Schefter's just distracted me because I was like, oh, okay, NFL news. No, it's just movie.
Ed Oliver is back. No,
just right,
kidding.
Exactly,
Nope. Ankle, rolling around.
Landry Shamet did sign, though, with the Knicks.
Okay. Yeah. Fascinating. Where's your, Euro basketball highlights to close us out today?
I don't want to get you get oddly angry about that, so I decided not to
Your
not to say anything.
obsession with watching guys work out is a little weird for me.
Throw up the video. Give me greased up Paul George one more time.
On that note,
throw it up when it's ready.
Let's wrap this up today. Best Bets, as always, presented by GBank, the official bank of VSiN. And GBank is built with sports bettors in mind. Right now, you can earn $50 cashback reward bonus once you're approved and your account is open with a GBank Visa signature card. Most credit cards treat sportsbook and gaming transactions as cash advances, even when it's your own money. GBank treats them as regular purchases. That means no cash advance fees, saves you 3 to 5% on every deposit. Plus, you're in 1% cash back on all eligible sportsbook and gaming transactions, 2% cash back on everything else you buy. You can apply now at vsin.com/gbank. That's VSIN.com/gbank. Yesterday, we already put in the account the Micah Parsons over a quarter a sack at -110. That's -138 right now, some places. But I mentioned this earlier. Shop around and make sure you know what you're betting. We bet over the quarter sack, which means a half a sack cashes you that ticket. Other places, it's the half a sack, which means you need a full one. So just keep that in mind as you go. But had a lot of success, obviously, against the Commanders last year. 2 sacks in the first meeting, 2.5 in the second, both on Jaden Daniels. I feel like he'll be in position again. He's not going to be lined up on Laramie Tunsil all night. They're going to move him around and have some opportunities. And in limited action, just in his debut, where he had 29 sacks, 3 pressures, had a sack, forced an interception. I think that with him clearly not hindered by that back, he has an opportunity to get at least a half a sack today.
Okay. I like it. I mean, I think it makes sense with everything we've talked about. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he performs. And they've been using him in so many different ways, too. So it's been cool to see. I wish they've been using him. It's one game, but it's been cool to see it. And hopefully they continue to do that here against the Commanders. Anything else for this game tonight for you? You want to put in because you got some of those tackle props? I've got 3 best bets to discuss here. We talked about 2 of them. Dorrance Armstrong over the quarter sack. That's 2-1. Edrin Cooper over 5.5 tackles at -112. We have the graphic here that we've discussed all the plays over the last couple of days. Arkansas State in the spot play catching 21.5 against Iowa State. Utah first half -13.5. K-State +1.5. Colts +2. Cal +2.5. Some good numbers. We'll see if they come out. And then a third, if we could, Brian Ortega, please. We discussed a little bit about this yesterday, but we should officially announce that added to the portfolio, if you would open up our doc and click over on NBA best bets, the Philadelphia 76ers to win the Eastern Conference. Look at him. He's ready to go, baby. Come on. Yeah, we're back in. Just throw up Paul George. Come on now.
What a time to be alive.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that bench press. That's good form.
I can't.
Shoulder blades are pressed. Back is arched. Glutes are tight. That's the way you do it.
All right, back to reality here. I do have one more bet for tonight. We also talked about this when we were breaking down props earlier. Deebo Samuel.
Anything to bother you.
Deebo Samuel over 4.5 receptions.
I like that.
I bet -135 here at Circa. 10 targets in week 1 that were 5 more than any other player. We talked about Green Bay's defense, that while they looked great as a whole against the Lions, Jared Goff still was able to get his completions in this game. And I feel like in the short, quick game position, you're going to be able to get a lot of those just short passes out to Deebo Samuel. So I like that over 4.5. 7 catches on 10 targets, 77 yards, and the 19-yard rushing touchdown in that week 1 appearance, mostly playing out of the slot. So I feel like we'll get some good stuff from Deebo today as well.
To add points of evidence to your case as well, Nate Hobbs may be coming back. Bullard, He's not great. Those are two guys you expect to play those snaps at corner in the slot corner position for the Green Bay Packers. So I think that does help you out as well. And that's mostly where Debo lined up in that game against the New York Giants.
And in case you missed it, we had a great conversation with Jeff Erickson last segment. He likes the Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt over 39.5 rush yards in this spot. Had 82 yards on 10 attempts last week, including that long of 42 and a touchdown. But as he was saying, even if you take away that 42-yard touchdown, he still goes over this number. That 42-yard run, he still goes over this number. Just felt like it was a little bit too low for a guy who should get the bulk of that workload. Other best bets for me from the week, just to recap: Georgia -3.5 in that matchup at Tennessee, Oregon State +24 against Texas Tech, and the Cowboys laying 5.5. I did get the worst of that number as we're seeing 4.5s out there, but I still feel very confident in the Cowboys. I placed that bet for a reason. Last couple minutes here. Do you mind if we talk first touchdown score for a little fun?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If you were to pick a first touchdown scorer for, let's pick one player each team and see who it'll be. And if you want, I can give you a little recap here for how week 1 went for these teams. Tucker Kraft, first touchdown last week for Green Bay. Got the ball first and scored, capped a 12-play, 85-yard drive. So Kraft, Josh Jacobs, and Jaden Reed in total scored. Kraft, though, was your first touchdown scorer. And then for the Commanders, they punted on their opening drive, got the ball back for their second possession, still scored the first touchdown of the game, marched down the field, 8-play, 89-yard drive. Zach Ertz cashing in there. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt also scored a touchdown, as did Debo. But both tight ends actually scored the opening touchdowns of their respective week 1 games. Do you think we get more tight end love, or where should we be looking?
Give me Colson Yankoff for the Washington Commanders. 130-1.
Who is that? Who is that?
Just the longest shot on the board. Just the longest shot on the board. No.
So you want Colson Yankoff and John Fitzpatrick?
Yeah,
Are those the two that you're going to go with? If you had one for each team, they're both 130-1.
I know maybe
if
somebody
that happens, I'm gonna lose it.
Somebody behind the scenes was like, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" That sounds like a dirty word. No, it's a real person. He's one of their tight ends. No, we'll go with if we're taking this, we're going to track these and have some fun throughout. First touchdown, man, you're only getting 11-1 on Jaden Daniels, but we'll go with it. Jaden Daniels 11-1.
I like that. It's still double digits for a guy that we know can use his legs. Is Josh Jacobs too boring? It's plus 380, but I feel like if you get in the red zone, he's the guy that's going to punch it in.
Didn't really look great running yesterday, last week, I'll tell you that much. Yep. Matthew Golden's an option. For what it's worth, I showed you this, and we can reiterate. Expected points added in scripted plays, Matt LaFleur was higher on the board in week 1 than Cliff Kingsbury. Just over 4, actually about 5 points in terms of EPA on scripted drives. Cliff Kingsbury was floating around 2.5.
What do you think about that stat that's been going around for week 2s of these two head coaches?
Okay, so first, there's a couple. First off, apparently Matt LaFleur is 12-0 in weeks 2 and 3, which is an oddity, and I don't know if I would put too much weight behind it, but that's just me. The other we're talking about here, so these are what? This is Evan Abrams. Week 2, adjustment week, last 20 years, only 2 head coaches are 4-0 ATS or better in week 2. Matt LaFleur is 6-0, and Dan Quinn is 7-0.
So someone's going to lose a cover today for the first time in week 2.
Someone's has got to go. Unless it falls on 3, and then you're grading from a 3, and then all of a sudden they're 6-0-1.
Whoa.
7-0-1, right?
Yeah, I guess technically.
Put me in the camp of it means nothing.
Okay, fair. But I mean, he did put in that first sentence adjustment week. If you think there's something to that from week 1 to week 2.
You know what? You're right. Give me Matt LaFleur. No. Give me Dan Quinn.
You're dead to me. My 2, I'm going to go Josh Jacobs and Debo.
Wait, we're picking 2?
Yeah, you pick one from each team. Josh Jacobs
I didn't pick
and Debo.
2. I only picked 1.
So you got Jaden Daniels, which I like, which I would have taken, but it's also like snake draft style. So you can't pick who I picked, and I can't pick who you picked.
Okay, give me Matthew Golden.
Okay. Those are the 4. Those that you're definitely getting
gonna be Golden. Anybody
better
get that
odds
reference?
than I am. If you did want to go tight end once again, Tucker Kraft 11-1, and where is Zach Ertz? Zach Ertz 20-1. Mm-hmm. If you think that he can go 2 for 2 once again. Okay, final thoughts on this game before we wrap it up.
Commanders.
Why?
You're talking about why?
You need to elaborate.
Well, what do you mean?
What if people missed earlier and they want to know your thoughts?
Offensive line injury for the Green Bay Packers will be impactful. I think that Jaden Daniels as a threat, as an extra rusher, is going to change the way that they defended the run, the Green Bay Packers. I don't think they're going to be able to play it as well as they did against the Lions when you have a statuesque, lanky quarterback back there as opposed to an actual runner and athlete. The ability to challenge the secondary downfield, I think, is going to be there. And I don't really buy too much for a relatively healthy team at the early portion of the year, I should say, that travel on a short week is a bad thing. Give me the Washington Commanders.
Now, is that too much to ask? I don't think so. I'm sticking with my props. If I had to make a bet on the game, I would probably lean over.
Elaborate.
I think we could get some points on that. Unfortunately, we only have 8 seconds to go because you took up so much time with your elaboration. Just kidding. That's a wrap for us today. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. Follow the money with Mitch and Paul coming up after this.